Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Always a delight to have Dr. Joel Klein in the studio with us today, and he's with Ventana Wellness, and today we're going to demood you. Well, we're going to try.
You mood you.
No, the question is, do you admit that you have mood swings, or do we have to talk to the people around you to find out if you have mood swings?
A little bit of both.
Really?
Well, the guys, I think, usually have to ask the wives because they're kind of oblivious.
Okay.
The wives will certainly
know.
So
men will go introverted, women will go extroverted?
As usual, men will go into the cave, and the women will keep trying to drag them out, going, talk to me.
Well, mood swings, they're real, aren't they?
Well, it's not just mood swings. I mean, part of the issue is obviously there's more chronic, low-grade mood issues, and there are swings. When we're dealing with swings, or even not only by day to day or during the day or even week to week, there are a number of physical factors. I mean, yes, of course, there are psychological and the spiritual issue, but there are also some significant physical factors that will affect our mood, our nutritional status, our level of activity and exercise, and hormone status will all significantly affect mood.
All right. Let me just say to our viewers, listeners, by the way, if you want to join the conversation, have at it. Here he is, the doc's in the house, and the phone number is 541-776-5368, or toll free wherever you're listening or watching, 800-373-5368. Dr. Joel Klein here to take your calls, and if you want to remain anonymous, we'll respect that as well. All right, so you're saying that there are various causes to mood swings, and yes, there's the emotional and there's the spiritual. You know, it's interesting because sometimes people get their identity by their mood swings.
We get our identity by all kinds of different things, and some people don't want certain things taken away. It's part of who they are. But again, what we're looking for are things that are out of character.
All right.
What's things that people really, God, I was never like, I'm not acting like myself. This is not who I am. Yes, there are, and I'm probably one of them I've been swinging probably my entire life. You know, but there are people who's like, no, this is very out of character for me, and they feel out of control with it. And most of the time, those are going to be related to a number of these physical factors.
Okay. Now, let's just take them one at a time. Where does eating come into this? Where does intake come into this?
Nutritional status play a big role. Obviously, all of these brain chemicals, these neurotransmitters that we talk about, people are very familiar with serotonin. Some people have heard of dopamine, GABA, acetylcholine, all come from our diet, and particularly from amino acids and what kind of quality protein we're eating and how well we're digesting protein. And then all of those amino acids, all of those nutrients require the right vitamin cofactors to be metabolized into these neurotransmitters. So nutritional status, and again, our old bugaboo, the high processed food, high carbohydrate diet, will definitely play a role. Deficiencies in things like folic acid have been shown to play a role in depression as well.
Do people, you said earlier that you begin to realize yourself something's out of balance. Is that common for people?
Usually. I mean, usually people, again, depending on how self-aware they are and what they're focusing on. I think, again, men, just as a rule, are usually focused on who cares how you feel, get the job done. I'm obviously overgeneralizing there, but we're not as focused on that. We're focused on what needs to happen, and we're focusing on that. And obviously women will notice, but sometimes it can be subtle things that the person themselves doesn't notice, and yes, the partner will notice.
Okay, so are we talking depression? Are we talking bursts of anger? Are we talking crying? Jay?
All of it, because a lot of times depression will show up as anger. I think that's also anger and irritability. Chronic anger and irritability are commonly signs of depression. You don't have to go into the crying spells as well. Anxiety that seems to come in waves. I've had patients. I had one patient who would actually become suicidal for an hour and a half, and it would blow over.
Really?
And this turned out this was a blood sugar issue for her. And when her blood sugar dropped, obviously that's quite a dramatic presentation. But for her, that was a big part of it, because obviously you don't just become suicidal for an hour and a half and have it blow over if there are these deeper issues.
But still serious.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sure. And obviously very disconcerting to the person experiencing it.
Oh, yeah. Are you seeing more of it in your practice these days, anxiety issues?
I don't know about more. I think it's you know, for
Just
the past
there, huh?
30 years, it's always been a huge factor, and the psychological factors certainly there. I guess I'm seeing more of it than I used to maybe 20, 30 years ago in younger people. You know, people even in their 20s.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so let's dissect this. If somebody is experiencing it, they're just not in control of themselves. They know something emotionally or anxiety or something's out of whack. What should they begin to do here?
Well, there are a number of issues you need to look at. You know, if you know your diet needs improving, if you're eating a lot of sugar, not, you know, we're not getting enough of the right nutrients. Level of physical activity, huge role. The studies showing that regular exercise improves depression are so convincing that the National Health Service in Britain, their socialized medicine system, your doctor can write you an exercise prescription for depression, and your insurance will cover a 6-month membership to a health club with a trainer for an exercise program.
Whoa.
Rather than just give you the, you know, here's your...
So the link is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, is that aerobic or weightlifting or what is
A
it?
little bit of both, but certainly the regular aerobic exercise. Strength training also helps. We get into this hormonal link and functional, what we would call functional adrenal insufficiency, not real Addison's disease, and that will relate to the blood sugar swings. And the weight training also helps with that, but particularly the aerobic, we get into these endorphin levels getting up over time. That makes a big role, but not so it's so strenuous that you're exhausted after. It's enough that people feel good and energized from it.
You know, and I think that's a key. I have found the hard way, going to the gym all these years, that I can pretty much get my routine done in 45 minutes. I just don't have to stay there for hours after hours.
God, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, and I think there are a lot of people, younger people in particular, that I see over-exercising, and they're exhausted because they're actually burning themselves out from it. No, you really don't. I mean, 45 minutes is great. I mean, 20 to 30 minutes on a regular basis has been shown to be a significant improvement.
And there's that point where you're moving fat to muscle. You could actually gain weight in that period.
Well, you're building muscle while you're losing fat. One does not necessarily get directly
you're not
converted.
moving. Yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah, building muscle.
Well,
okay.
you're going to be. You may gain some weight. Usually, if the number on the scale is not changing or moving in the wrong direction, what you still notice is your clothes fit differently.
Yeah.
So literally, the body composition changes so that people will notice, even though the number on the scale is not budging. But my clothes are looser, so you know something beneficial is happening.
All right, so where does sleep come into this picture?
Sleep, huge. Obviously, we're all sleep deprived. We're not regenerating the brain chemicals, these things at night. So chronic sleep deprivation, whether it's through just not getting enough or disturbed sleep, certainly people with sleep apnea, depression is a very common manifestation of that. So this is really the ultimate mind-body problem, because it encompasses all of it. And the trick is there's not the same percentage of things that'll go for each person. So in some person, yes, it may be the fact that they're unhappy in their job or their relationship. Somebody else, it may be that they're not sleeping as well. And these things also then will contribute to hormonal imbalances, which then make everything worse. So you can really wind up in a very vicious cycle in that the lifestyle issues, the stress issues will drag the hormones down. The hormones being low will even add to the depression. And yes, like I said, you wind up in a very vicious cycle.
All right, let me just say, if you want to join us, it's 541-776-5368 or toll free 800-373-5368. Dr. Joel Klein with us for a couple segments here talking about mood swing. Is this considered a disorder?
It depends. You know, if we get into where it's really depression, mood swings, not necessarily, and obviously the most famous would be in menopausal hot flashes, mood swings, but men with low testosterone will have anxiety and depression problems. I see that very commonly. The whole disorder thing, quite frankly, it's
overrated.
It's what I'll put down so that the insurance company will pay for the visit.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to be truthful about that as to what, because you need a diagnosis. But I don't like to stick the diagnosis labels. These are descriptions that we've invented for things, and then after we make up the label, then we decide that this is now a real thing. rather than, well, we made up a label to describe this. So I think the problem is it can be helpful, but it can also be harmful in sticking people with labels that I think are unnecessary.
All right, as we go into the break, is this compounded for women when they go through the change?
Oh, absolutely. This is a huge part of,
of
the whole problem. And the menopausal issues, a huge, or the major even part of that, is the fact that if we have been spending our whole lives being stressed, so that by the time you're 50, you don't have a lot of reserve left. And then again, it's the adrenal glands that make both your stress and sex hormones. And once the ovaries stop making hormones, except for a little bit of testosterone, if you don't have any adrenal reserve left, your body has to choose. And the stress hormones take precedence because they're necessary for survival. The sex hormones are nice for quality of life, but not essential. And so we wind up having to choose, and the sex hormone levels fluctuate, and that plays an absolutely huge role. This is the main reason, in my experience, the nutritional factors play a role there too, why women wind up needing menopausal hormone replacement.
All right, Dr. Joel Klein's with us, and if you want to join us about all this, feel free, 541-776-5368, or toll free, 1-800-373-5368. And check out ventanawellness.com, and you'll find a lot of resources there. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're talking about moods today, and Dr. Joel Klein's with us from Ventana Wellness, and it's a great resource for you, the website and the clinic, ventanawellness.com. You might want to check it out. And if you want to join the conversation, you have any questions about this, you're welcome to do it. Our phone number is 541-776-5368, or toll free, 800-373-5368. And the whole issue of moods is really interesting. Are men or women more vulnerable than the other when it comes to mood issues?
Good question. Maybe I would say both, but again, the men tend to be quieter and tend to go into the cave and or go into what was there was a Dr. Terrence Real wrote a book about covert male depression, and the title of the book was "I Don't Want to Talk About It." So again, we express it differently. So it's maybe more obvious in one than another. With men, it's the, whether it's the withdrawing, the more introversion, because men with depression, a lot of times just the common theme is leave me alone, don't bother me.
Yeah, I get that.
I can speak from great experience with this. So yes.
Okay. It seems like we're living in a more anxiety-packed culture.
Sure.
It just seems to be ratcheting up worse and worse. And you can't watch the news without coming away either being angry, upset, or something.
I know. So the question is, how much should we really be watching the news?
Turn it off. Yeah.
How much, of the things that really matter in our lives that we can really do something about?
Are we managing our intake these days?
I don't think so. I think we're overloaded. And again, I've said this probably on the show before. I think this is really a manifestation of what Alvin Toffler called future shock, where the accelerating pace of the growth of technology is outstripping our biological ability to adapt to it, constantly putting us in this state of fear of anticipation of the future.
Really?
Because we can't keep up.
Yeah, because I just saw some surveys over the weekend where the millennials are saying, we don't have any hope for the future. We don't think we're going to live like our parents did. I mean, how's that for an outlook?
And we're telling them that too. This is the first generation. I mean, so if things keep going the way they're going, that would be true. The millennial generation may have to take it upon itself they will have the power themselves as they're coming into it to stop this. Yeah. There's a popular song, John Mayer has this song called "Waiting for the World to Change." Well, don't wait.
Yeah.
No, you may need to create your own and say, we inherited this, but that doesn't mean that we're stuck with it, and we can create a different reality out of what we've been given.
Boy, that fits into a whole nother topic.
Sure, you guys will work
we look at this generational science, and you can see it happening.
Right.
All right. So you got exercise, sleep, and the big one here is hormones.
Hormones play huge role.
How do people just say, well, this hormone thing, that's another big issue. I don't even know if I need to be tested. What would you say to that?
It all needs to be put into context. If people are dealing with issues of mood, depression, fatigue, in particular, the disturbed sleep patterns. The problem is I'm seeing hormone issues in younger and younger people too, like guys in their 30s. Typically don't see the women because, their hormonal imbalances show up differently with disturbances in the menstrual cycle and all of these other types of issues. But if somebody's in their 40s or later, it's worth looking into. Absolutely. And then you can make some decisions. I won't say that everyone needs to be on hormone therapy. No. But it's one factor that can be looked at and try to develop, again, this holistic mind-body picture. What are the biggest factors affecting you here? Is it sleep? Is it your activity? Is it your work or your relationship? Are there severe hormonal issues that, maybe we need to deal with these, because if we don't, we're always going to be playing catch up and we just don't know how it's going to go. There's not a hard and fast, okay, everybody gets this program. It's one that needs to be tailored with the patient, and then you continue to monitor. Okay, how are you doing? What's happening with this? Because it's certainly not an exact science by any means, and you may have to keep adjusting or even completely re-examining your treatment.
How safe is hormone treatment?
Well, this is a big issue that's coming out now too. They recently did this study that did show increased all-cause mortality in men on testosterone therapy. I'm not sure how much that means. Again, there are these statistical studies, and they'll look at men taking testosterone, men that aren't. They'll try to be controlling for all these other factors. And people just have to be aware when you hear significant. Anytime you hear significant, it means statistically significant. Mm-hmm. What you and I would judge as significant, I think sometimes is another story when I look at this, that there's a statistically significant interest. So I think that's a question that was interesting about whether it's cancer or this or that. So there are questions about it. Certainly with women, the biggest issue has been, and this is a whole nother topic, the women that had more breast cancer and more heart attacks in the big study were the women taking horse-derived estrogen with artificial progesterone.
Oh, wow.
And the artificial progesterones have been found more and more. They do not act like real progesterone in many different ways. And it was interesting, the women who had just taken the horse estrogen didn't get more breast cancer and did not get more heart attacks. And looking at up to 80,000 women on progesterone therapy, there was no increased cancer. So how much can we really say about that? I think there's some definite debatable issues. I don't think they're for everybody. I don't think everybody should be on hormones till they're 100 and they'll live to be 120 like some people are espousing. But they clearly make a difference in people's quality of life when they're suffering.
How do you know when somebody should seek help from mood issues?
Well, they need to look for themselves. If this is really affecting the quality of their life, the quality of their relationship, the functioning at their work, this is a time to start looking at, this is really interfering. And again, sometimes it may be the spouse that needs to insist because the person themselves says, well, I don't think it's that bad. And the spouse has to say, well, yeah, it is. So then it's affecting the quality of your relationship. And it's, again, worth exploring if it's creating a problem at that level.
Now, the first thing you do as a physician to get the big picture is you take a lot of blood tests.
The first thing I do is talk to the person.
Okay.
I want to get the picture.
That's kind of noble.
I was taught as a freshman medical student, the history is 90% of the diagnosis, and that is still true. Wow. So I want to get my best indication of what's the picture going on here. Can't always do that in a single initial visit. And yes, I will check the hormones. I will check metabolic issues. Nutritional status is a little bit tougher because regular blood tests don't show that very well, except for some rare things like a significant vitamin B12 deficiency that can cause depression or even dementia in older people. Those are more obvious. The more subtle ones are more difficult. But there are some people who develop some very elegant systems, even some questionnaires that we can look at whether you're look like you're deficient in serotonin or dopamine, these things, and GABA, the things that go along with anxiety and depression. But I do the best. I don't have a set formula. Oh, boom, we do this. I want to get a picture of the whole story. Yes, we want to look at hormones. We want to look at all the metabolic issues, and then we want to try to put together what's that person's best treatment plan based on the factors that seem to be affecting them.
Is weight gain or loss sometimes a mood issue?
It more can be. And it can be the hormonal issue. So weight gain, we're commonly dealing with thyroid, although also with disrupted cortisol from chronic stress. So people have chronic stress and they have the opposite of what they're supposed to have. So cortisol is low in the morning and they're tired when they get up in the morning, yet they're wired or they can't sleep at night. High cortisol at night will cause your muscle to break down into the amino acids, which are then converted into sugar and fat around the belly. So that can be a weight gain issue. Weight loss, if it's not a hormonal, and there are only a few causes like hyperthyroidism and these things, will commonly, that's when you're getting into certain people with more severe depression. It can go either way because some people will eat more, some people will lose their appetite and not eat at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, the mood thing is, I think from a spiritual side and the counseling side, we're seeing more and more anxiety.
Sure.
At all levels. And I think it's cultural, a lot of contributors to it. But it's just amazing to me how many people are wretched up. They're just tighter now.
And one big part of it, I think, is also our loss of connection to nature and the world. See, we're living in this man-created environment, not in the God-created environment, which tends to be balancing for people. I'm out there every weekend, up in the woods or the mountains or doing something. That's where I get my balance,
I think, you're right. I think we locked in, we become products of concrete.
Right. Concrete and metal and electronics. And how much is all the electromagnetic stuff affected? Some people are very sensitive to electromagnetic input. And if you have a lot of, mechanical stuff and all that, some people's nervous systems, I think, can be more sensitive to that.
All right. So let's put the stethoscope, so to speak, on our moods. We want to check our exercise program, how well our quality of sleep is. Are we having rush with hormones, and what our diet is? Am I hitting it?
I think that would be the big four there. Then we want to look at all of them and see which slices of the pie. It's a pie diagram, and for that person, which ones are the major slices that we should work at first, the major contributors, and start with those.
Where does hydration come into this? Is it a factor at all?
I think it's a factor. I don't ascribe to the fact that, everybody's dehydrated, so they need to be drinking a gallon of water a day. I think that's one of the things that can play a role, but I wouldn't look at it as for my first one. Usually there are other factors that are going to be involved if hydration is in there.
All right. The other thing that we're learning is that the job market's got people really stressed.
Right.
Now, some of this is just they need to be de-stressed.
Right.
That's easier said than done.
Easier said than done, and that I will leave to your discussions on the psycho-spiritual side of, even in the hardest circumstances, where can we surrender? Where can we find what the teaching is? Where's the bright spot? What am I supposed to be getting out of this?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Dr. Klein, interesting. And if people want to get more, he's with Ventana Wellness, and that's ventanawellness.com on the website. And of course, you can look it up there. They got a great clinic and services here in Medford, and he's always available. I guess are you still taking new patients?
Oh, of course.
Are you?
I'm about a month booked out now, but yeah.
That's okay. Get on the swing there.
Yep.
All right. So check out your exercise. Are you doing any? That's the first thing. If you're not doing anything, I probably almost would start there. You can certainly take a look at your diet. There's no question about that. And then, are you sleeping well at night? I have no problem. I can sleep anywhere. Anywhere, anytime, any position.
That can be good or bad. So.
I'm fine with that. Okay, and hormones, have that all checked out. Thanks, Joel.
Okay, thanks, Barry. Always a pleasure.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and I work at theDove TV. Compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and it's always a delight to have my good friend with us, David Crowe. He is the founder and president of Restore America, and today we're talking to him about a very important topic, and that is voter registration in the state of Oregon. And let me encourage you to go to restoreamerica.org. It's an incredible resource. In fact, right there on the front page, you'll see the Oregon Project, and he has a lot of the statistics there. And again, I want to remind you, coming up Thursday, there's going to be a special gathering at noon. We'll be using the facility of the First Church of the Nazarene. And pastors, those of you who have received the letter, if you haven't responded, please call the number in that letter and let us know that you're coming, or send a representative from your church. This is very important. In fact, it's extremely important that you find out what you can and can't do when it comes to voter registration in your church. Hi, Dave. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Perry?
Good. You're looking good, man. Looking good. The magic of Skype. Well, here we are, coming down to the final days of registration in the state of Oregon. Give us your thoughts here, friend.
Well, the primary is far more important than people really think.
Yeah.
And as you and I both know, about 40% turnout, and that's about 20%, 25, even 30% lower than it would be in the general election. So when you've got 2 or 3 candidates running for each position, it doesn't take that much of a majority to win. And as a matter of fact, I've done all the research on this over and over and over again to make sure it's right.
Yeah.
But if it's a two-way race in Oregon, say it's for U.S. Senate or for House position, all you need is about 7 to 8% of all the eligible voters to vote, and you'll carry it, you'll win. So if the Christians will awaken and turn out a larger percentage of their voters, that's where you dominate. That's where you put forward good candidates. And you and I both have heard over and over again from people how concerned they are that they don't have much of a good choice.
Right, right.
In either party, and particularly in the Republican Party, because the choice wasn't made properly in the primary. And so Christians have got to awaken to that fact and register now, because I think it's either the 29th or the 30th. I don't count backwards very many days very well, but I think it's 21 days, it's 3 weeks before the primary, which is on the 20th. So on the 29th or the 30th is your last day to register to vote. And if you don't do that, if you register a day or two late, you're not going to get to vote in the primary. You can vote in the general election, but not in the primary.
Well, you're so right. The primary is by far more important than we care to realize. And in fact, tomorrow, David, I'm moderating the debate between all of the Republican candidates who are vying for Senator Merkley's position in the U.S. Senate. And here's an opportunity to replace somebody who is extremely liberal and is certainly not on the side of life or traditional values whatsoever, and really has done nothing for the state of Oregon, but has been sold out to the left side of all of these issues that are concerning to us, with a good, strong candidate. And so I think there's 5 or 6 of them running, but I think it boils down to 2, and I'll be moderating that tomorrow night. But that's a classic example of how important a primary is.
Well, you're right. And Merkley is a one-term senator, and he's done a few things around the edges to make it kind of look good to the Portland population, but he's not our guy. He is not going to stand up for our values at all. And he hasn't. He's demonstrated that. So we've already got 1 liberal Democrat out of Portland. Why should we have 2? In fact, this is the opportunity for conservatives around the state to rise up and put a conservative in there to run. And as the state wakens itself up here over the next several months, I have no doubt when we start registering these 300,000 who are not registered or not voting, there's 300,000 evangelicals. George Barna says it's 355,000 in Oregon who are eligible to register and vote. And I'm just saying 300,000 will be conservative. But can you imagine that? The governor's race, and I think I mentioned this before, was won by Kitzhaber by 22,000 votes. Didn't need to happen. The Christians were somewhere else, out to lunch, I guess, and figuratively and literally.
All right, let's go back and hit that 300,000 mark. Explain that for those who are hearing it for the first time, because that is just staggering.
Well, nationwide is 33 million. I mean, that's how many voted, was 33 million. Actually, the last election, this last time, it was only 30 million who turned out. And that's just a killer. When you've got 25 to 30,000 Christians eligible across the country who are not voting, that destroys the nation. Mm-hmm. We're not owning our dependence. And of course, you've heard me use the quote that I use with Abraham Lincoln. It's the duty of nations and of men to own their dependence, own our dependence upon the living God. And we're not doing that. We're just not doing that. We're not owning our dependence upon the power of God. And it really is a one-sided game. If we're really depending like little David was when he went in and chided his brothers for not believing God and going after Goliath. Mm-hmm. David had to do it himself. And that's what God is looking for, is people who will stand up, take ownership, and do what they're supposed to do.
All right, let me ask you this, David. We saw a little bit of a glimpse of hope maybe on that special election in Florida where it was won by a Republican, and clearly the president took that district in those last two elections. Do you think there's a shift, pardon the pun, in the right direction?
Well, I don't know what other people are watching, but that's what I do, is I watch everything that I can that comes over my screen from all the sources that I consider credible. And you can watch it on Fox. You can't really get the news. It's covered up. It's avoided on the other channels. But the anger in this country, the frustration. Robert Knight, you know that name?
Yes.
Washington Times.
Right.
Today he came out with an article that spells it out. And people are frightened, frankly. They're horrified at what's gone on here in the country, and how this guy is ever went beyond a community organizer is beyond all of us now, and it's evident. And his poll numbers are dropping, and people are being affected. They're losing their jobs. If they get a job, it's probably a part-time job for a whole lot less money. Yeah. And when it starts hitting your pocketbook, it makes a big difference. And I don't see him changing course. No matter what is done, he's not going to change course. So he can put a little cosmetic stuff on it and halfway make it look good. But folks, this guy is taking us down the drain. And there are a lot of people working with him to do the same thing. So it's up to us. The only ones that can save this nation are the evangelical Christians who know their God and who will stand up by faith and speak truth. And that's got to happen. And I know some people may find some of the things that I say a little bit abrasive, but something's got to wake people up to the truth. And we're the ones. We have the votes. There's no one else who has the power of the vote like we do. And if God's people are silent, you used a phrase here that when I talked to you last that I thought was, I can't remember it right now, but silent surrender. Suicide by, pardon?
The silent surrender.
The silent surrender. And the nation's going to commit suicide. I hate to call it that, but it's just like Germany. People need to get Metaxas' book on Bonhoeffer and read it. It'll just tell you where we're headed, and we're doing so ignorantly and foolishly. And so that's why this is my last trip out to Oregon, as far as I can see. This will be the fourth one in about 9 months. But I'm doing everything I can to call Oregonians and pastors to their leadership responsibility. They need to own it. I'm in Tennessee. I love my state of Oregon. Grew up there. Family goes all the way back to the 1850s. But it's sad to me how the Christians are not registering, not voting. Somehow they're waiting for the rapture. I hope the rapture comes for our sake, for our kids' sake. But I think we're going to go into a lot of trouble before we can count on that. You can't count on that. You don't drop back and punt. You fight all the way to the finish, and that's what it says in Revelation. Stay faithful and stay firm. And part of that is our citizenship responsibility right here. We have it in our hands. Our founders gave it to us. People bled and died for it, and we're tossing it away. And that's a tragedy. And I'm going to do everything I can to appeal, to call, to plead, to appeal to my brethren in the pulpits and in the churches, wherever I go, if they'll let me in, to call us to that voter registration in our churches. It's the natural place.
Right.
There's over 250,000 evangelical churches in this country. There's about 1,000 in Oregon. 1,000. The other side doesn't have that kind of mobilization ability. We do. And we're still short on the signatures for the petition to stop taxpayer-funded abortion. So, where are we? Are we leaving it up to our neighbor, to someone else? We all have to make a commitment to do something, to be active, to make sure we're registered.
All right.
And all of those things are important.
Let me take a break here, Dave. When we come back, I want you to dispel the myth that this is political and the church shouldn't be involved in it, and how legal it is for a pastor to do this. Also spell out what you're going to do when you're here Thursday. And folks, we can't be involved in this silent surrender. Not only is voter registration incredibly important, but now we have this opportunity to stop your tax dollars for paying for 11 abortions in the state of Oregon. Every day, you are paying for 11 abortions. We can stop that by a petition drive. We cannot sit by and call ourselves pro-life and do nothing and do a silent surrender. So I'm going to have Dave kind of give a little bit of a highlight of what he'll be doing Thursday when he's here in Medford at noon, and we'll give you the information on that when we return.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and our special guest today is my good friend David Crowe. He's the founder and president of Restore America. And folks, you need to go to restoreamerica.org and just look at the incredible resources that are available to you at that website. Support David in his efforts. He's totally faith-supported, and he does this out of the passion of his heart to see things changed in this country. He'll be coming to town Thursday, and this will be trip number 4 to Oregon, and helping churches and pastors and leaders to understand how important it is that we register to vote and that we vote. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I sent out a letter to all you pastors asking you to come to this meeting. And it's free of charge. We're going to feed you lunch. We have somebody that's going to pay for the lunch and give you all of the facts about voter registration in the state of Oregon. And hopefully you're coming. And if you're not, would you call the number in that letter and let the church know that whether you're coming or not, or please send someone from your church. Appoint somebody in your church to be kind of like the civic committee leader or whatever, the community leader in these issues, and come and learn what's going on and get the information that David's going to be sharing with us. And David, it is April 29th, the last day to register. So let me say to our listeners and viewers, if you've changed your name or changed your address, you must re-register to vote. And if you don't know if you're registered to vote, check it out. And then get registered before the 29th of April. And then the ballots come out the 20th, and that's, well, they come out before that, but the actual day is the 20th of May is the primary. And everybody, you're absolutely right, Dave. You and I have been through this drill a gazillion times. Everybody complains in the general election. That's my choice. Well, it could be different if you got involved in the primary, and it's critical. The primary is absolutely critical. So, David, given all that, give us a highlight of what you're going to present on Thursday at lunchtime for us.
Well, this is broken down into about 3 segments. There are 21 slides. First part is about our heritage, our Christian heritage, quotes from our founders, from Washington, Adams, Jefferson, right on down the line, and our presidents all the way up through to Eisenhower, about voting and the necessity of voting. So I lay that out at first to show us how important the vote is. And then what I do is I show the demographics. And the demographics really reveal, they're sobering. People almost gasp when they see these numbers. And I've simplified it, made it as clear as possible. I've done the research, and people need to come and see that. They need to put their eyes on that screen and see what we're doing. And it will make them sick, frankly, that we're not doing our job. And it will motivate people to say, hey, we can make the difference here. People need to be inspired and motivated. And so then there's a strong call to action. And I'm not trying to beat up on anybody. I'm just simply trying to lay the facts out there for us so we can see we can do this. And I just lay it out how we can do it across the state. And it's really not hard. It's not hard. The hard part is getting people to take action, to own it, to own their responsibility themselves. And I would say, Pastor, bring someone with you. Bring one of your board members. Or if you can't come, have two of your board members come. It's always better to have two people put eyes on that screen and go back and give two people a report. Remember Caleb and Joshua. And that's what's needed is someone who catches the vision, can go back and can explain it very simply. And I'm willing to give those slides away. We'll have a sign-up sheet back there. You can scroll those in your church between services or before the service, after the service, so people begin to catch the vision of what's happening and what can happen and what they can do to be part of this. We are citizens. We're not only citizens of heaven, we're citizens of earth. And this is our country. And look what's happening in Crimea. Look what's happening in the Ukraine. And people don't know the history about all of this. But folks, your vote is important. It's absolutely necessary for you to participate as a citizen in this nation. If you're a believer in Jesus Christ, let your light shine. And the way you do that, you don't put it under a bushel by not voting. You let it shine through your ballot, through your votes. There are going to be voter pamphlets that come out, Oregon Family Council. The information, Perry, you share that information. We've just shared a little bit of it right here. But this is a strong call. I'm doing the best I can to call Oregonians to own this. Own the state. Own your dependence upon God. Own what has been given to you, or you're going to lose your rights. You're going to lose your privileges. And it's going to come, folks. If we don't stand up now, we're going to be just like Germany, and it'll be too late. And people are going to die, frankly. It's going to be very, very costly. And people can't even imagine how bad it's going to get unless the Christians in this nation stand up and take it back. So that's my little spiel for you this morning.
That's good. Tell the pastor how legal this is for them to do voter registration.
Well, it's absolutely legal to hold non-partisan voter registration. If you're sold out to one party or the other and you hold voter registration and you tell everybody you want them to vote one way or the other, this party or that, that's wrong. And you're on the wrong side of the law with that. But there is absolutely no law in this country that says we can't hold voter registration in our churches. It's got to be nonpartisan. So you can summarize and have both party pages out there for people to take a look at, 2 or 3 copies if you want to. You don't have to do that. I think it's so important that people register, and then after they register, they sign those petitions. Petitions need to be right there. The body of Christ has done it before. We came up with 250,000, 243,000, I believe, when we needed 150. Now we need 150, and we're not close yet. We're about 40,000, and we've got less than 60 days to get it done. So there needs to be urgency, and there's nothing wrong with holding voter registration in your churches. I'll tell you what's wrong before the eyes of God and as citizens is not to have voter registration in our churches. That's really what's wrong. That's the sin of not being called to be citizens from our pulpits and say, as a Christian, you owe it to your nation, you owe it to everyone to vote, to register and vote your values. That's our freedom. And if we don't do it, we're going to lose it.
All right. Now, the state of Oregon, you said there's about 300,000 eligible. And if we could get them not only to register, but to vote, and I don't want to settle for 10%, but if we got 10 or 20% of that, you can almost sway any primary in the state.
Yes, absolutely. And that's, but like you say, they need to come and see this presentation. It's a full color background presentation with data that's on there that you can take home and you can use it in your sermons. You can make a small announcement from it. You can let it, it'll tell a story if you just scroll right there in your church. Why wouldn't we scroll this before a primary and a general election?
Right.
There's nothing offensive in it. The only thing that's offensive in it is learning that what we're not doing and what we could be doing to change our state. And frankly, they're not really counting on Oregon to elect a conservative Republican senator. They're not counting on it. But we could make that happen. We have the ability and the power to do that. We just need to do it. And we need the leadership of our pastors to do it. And that's why the focus is on pastors. Please come. Please walk away with the pamphlets that tell you everything you can and you can't do from your pulpit. Came out of Southern California, a great little pamphlet. Whoever comes, you can take one of those, take it back to your pastor, but make sure they understand. You read it. We need to educate ourselves. We need to do it in our home groups, in our Bible studies, in our Sunday school classes, and call our 17-year-olds who will be 18 before the primary or the general election to make sure they register and they vote and understand what they're voting for.
David, a midterm election can be critical. We saw it in 10. They took back the U.S. House of Representatives. And now with the disdain of this president and his policies, this could be a huge turnover, not only the House, but maybe in the U.S. Senate. But you, as you're indicating here, in the state of Oregon, it's very doable for us to sneak up and put a Republican in the U.S. Senate.
That is true. That is very true. And I don't think most people even know who the candidates are yet. You have to spend a little time to have freedom and to have freedom for your children and have the liberties that we've had throughout this nation up until the last 15, 20 years. And recently under this administration, you've got to put a little elbow grease in this. You can't just decide that something else is kind of on your list today is going to take precedent over this. The moaning that's coming out of Washington, D.C. by conservatives who know what's happening there. And folks, we're not being told the half of what is happening behind the scenes and what's really being done to us. And the bureaucracies that are growing, the cost of government, there's no intention of taking it back. The only thing that can rein in this government over us is the people. That's it. It's us. And we're the ones who know the principles, know the power of God, know what's right, what's wrong. The wisdom is in the book. And if we will believe in the God of the Bible rather than the gods of this world, there's no power on earth that can stop that. So
that's the essence, Dave. We got about 90 seconds. At the end of the day, we are in the spiritual battle of our country's life. I don't think we've ever seen it magnified as it is today.
Well, and keep speaking it, brother. I mean, come right out and just tell it the way it is and what's happening. And you can quote other people today who are really telling the truth, and Bob Knight is one of them. This lady, Tammy Bruce, I've heard Tammy before speak on Fox, and then she comes out, she's a lesbian, and she comes out and she gives the straightest gouge on this decision out of Arizona that is going to wind up taking our liberties away from us and your rights to speak the truth and to stand for it. If something isn't done by the people, you're going to be sued out of your business. You say one wrong thing, so you're not going to have any freedom of speech anymore. And it's going to wind up in the church as well. And she makes that clear from her perspective, very, very clearly what's being done. And she calls it just a Gestapo. We hate that term, but you need to go read Metaxas' book on Bonhoeffer, and you'll see what's happening in America, just like it happened in Germany.
David, thank you, my friend. Blessings to you, and we'll see you out here Thursday. And I just want to say to our viewers and listeners, talk to your pastor, give him a call. Is he going to come to the meeting, or is she going to come to the meeting on Thursday? If not, could you go and represent your church and come and get this material? David, he gives it away. Folks, he gives this research away. He's absolutely right. He has the slides that he'll give you to use in your church, and they are beautifully done and they're powerfully written. Thank you, David. We'll see you on Thursday, pal.
Look forward to it, brother.
All right, God bless. All right, David Crowe, president and founder of Restore America. Go to restoreamerica.org and you'll see everything that he's talking about, and support David and what he does there. restoreamerica.org. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, theDove.us.